Morning.
Oh, well, you see. Well, yesterday we had to make some noise on behalf of ourselves and every Nigerian watching us, saying, look, what is going on? And finally, now we know what is going on.
Precisely.
The presidency released a statement saying there is no reason for the CBN and the AGF to not obey the court order, the Supreme Court order of March 3rd. And of course, the CBN naturally also responded and said, the old notes, 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes, now remain legal till the end of the year.
Absolutely. And let's just take a look at the statement signed by the CBN's Acting Director of Corporate Communications, Issa Abdul Mumuni. The Apex Bank says this is in compliance with the established tradition of obedience to court orders and sustenance of the rule of law. So my question is, Aya, what happened to the Supreme Court order of last month stopping the federal government from extending the February 10 deadline? The federal government's response to that was a pronouncement on a partial obedience of the Supreme Court order. And, at that time, it was painful silence that we heard from the central bank and the back and forth over whether, the Supreme Court was named in the suit or not. That was the debate over the Naira redesign at that time. So what this simply tells us is, that the CBN, of course, is, well, not necessarily an appendage, but obeys the order of the federal government.
Well, one of the questions I was asking initially was, how long does it take? When does the Supreme Court order or any court's order take effect? What I was reliably told that it was immediate. Is 10 days immediate enough? I guess, well, the joyful thing now, Markwe, is, as we shouted yesterday, as we advocated yesterday, it is now official. The old notes can now take effect. Some joy, right?
But we've just seen a gaping hole in how institutions are meant to function in this part of the world here, because after the Supreme Court ruling, you will expect that things are supposed to normalize, but it didn't. And then it had to take several protestations, commentary, back and forth from the public, pulling out the presidency and calling on the presidency as well. The CBN inclusive, the banks as well. The CBN inclusive, the banks as well. Before we then had this, and the statements from Gaba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, were several parts of it, if you have it. But some part, they say, is wide off the mark to blame the President for the current controversy over the cash scarcity. Despite the Supreme Court judgment, the CBN has no reason not to comply with court orders on the excuse of waiting for directives from the President. Look, technically, they have a point.
That was a telling line for me. The CBN has no reason not to comply with court orders on the excuse of waiting for directives from the president. But that's what we saw happen. So, really, Chamberlain, gaping hole. But let us hope, because at the end of the day, what we're seeking is that Nigerian people are able to get access to their money and can spend it. This is their money. They can spend it however it is that they can, or where it is that they wish to spend it, whenever it is that they wish to get those money. So let us hope that this statement from both the CBN now and the presidency will solve this quagmire that we found ourselves in.
Absolutely, because, the second part of the CBN statement also says the CBN met with Bankers Committee and has directed that the old 200, 500, and the 1,000 naira banknotes remain legal tender alongside the redesigned banknotes till December 31, 2023. And this is as the court has directed. So they're saying everyone involved, all concerned, are directed to confirm accordingly. So, that's how when it happens in this country, they look to what? Body language, directive from the presidency before they do certain things. Because, look, for want of being politically correct, many things don't happen. And you could look at that. As soon as the statement comes through, then this one from CBN comes through. It just tells you what goes on and how things play out in this part of the world. So, well, bottom line is, now that this is out, let's go to the markets. and see. Nobody has any reason
and let us see whether
whatsoever.
they'll comply. It's as simple
There
as
you
that,
go.
what the effect will be.
Yeah, so wherever you are, you're welcome to tell us what your impression is. If you've been to the market ever since, or maybe it's too early, but no worries. Just go ahead and we'll see how the streets will respond to all of this. But we will be back in a moment and take you through what we have for you today. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. So there you go. That's how the dailies reflect what's going on. So as expected, you might as well just go ahead and take a look at any one of them if you will. But here, right now, we'll delve in right into what we have for you today. Taraba politics. So we've got retired Lieutenant Colonel Agbu Kefas. He joins us here. He is the governorship candidate for the People's Democratic Party in Taraba State. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get your impression. Did this scarcity of currency affect your campaign, your strategy in any way whatsoever?
Thank you very much. Well, just like every other person is complaining, that is how it's also affecting us. But we work through it, manage what is available, and then try to forge ahead, because we've not seen any solution yet up to now.
Oh, okay. We thought that politicians have their ways of getting by, getting around some of this. And so you found the way, as you said.
Well, what we do is most time we just the little we have, we just transfer to them, and that's all. But we can't see the cash.
Oh, okay.
We can't see cash, yeah.
So now to your campaign. Saturday was going to be a big weekend for you. Haven't seen the way the presidential elections came. Lots of people expressed a lot of surprises. Can't blame them for that. But for this weekend, are you good to go?
Well, we are very good to go. If the election had taken place last Saturday, we will still win. So the extension has given us a little time to also cross the T's and then dot the I's. So we are good to go.
What makes you so confident? Because the governor vied for his senatorial position and lost it. Isn't that the telltale sign of what might happen?
Well, no. Taraba State have been PDP state all through. So I'm riding on that, and with my personality and character, I think I stand a better chance than anyone.
I'm sorry, but if the governor couldn't ride on that, why do you think you successfully ride on it?
Well, he won his election as a governor. For the senatorial, it's a different game entirely. But we are talking about the whole state. And him losing the senatorial seat is not going to affect my governorship election.
Well, it is interesting. I know that all politics is local, and sometimes the deeper you dig, the more you'll understand perhaps the dynamics of that particular place. But, I mean, as my colleague, I know that the PDP won in Taraba State for the presidential elections, and perhaps that will certainly give you, boy, the courage that you have to say that PDP is or Taraba is a PDP state. But then, some people will say that it also depends heavily on the performance of the person before you. That if the person who was before you hasn't done very well, the chances are very high that the people might reject your party. And perhaps people are reading the fact that the governor was, not elected for his senatorial seat as an indicator of how he's performed. I don't know what exactly has happened, and perhaps how that could affect the chances of whoever is coming on the platform of the PDP.
Well, for his election, he can speak better on that. But looking at what we have on Saturday coming up, we stand a better chance because PDP has been doing a lot in Taraba. And, the issue of governance is a continuous process. You can't finish governing the people within this period. And that's why it's a continuous process. So I've also looked at areas that he has not been able to maybe do much, which I'm also riding on. So basically, areas that people maybe are complaining, things are not done, I'm looking at them, assessing them, and then to make sure that we meet up, because governance is all about the people.
In fairness, I know that he's also tried to focus a great deal on agriculture. I mean, we saw the Highland tea from Taraba, and also some greenhouse farming, trying to produce some interesting, produce from Taraba State. How that is going in terms of it being able to access the markets will be another kettle of fish. Whether they have been able to sustain that is another kettle of fish. But I'm wondering, what other areas what are the key areas that you would like to focus on should you be elected governor?
Thank you very much. The first thing is to see how I can unite the people in Taraba, and then to provide an enabling, secure environment for them to live.
Unite the people?
Yes, unite the people.
So there is some division now?
There is no community that you won't see people fighting over one issue or the other. So, but when you come up as a person in leadership position, and you are doing justice to the people, you are being fair to the people, and you carry the people along, you make them to understand that you are there for them. Some of these divisions, some of these issues will be very minimal. I will leverage on that to make sure that Taraba is very secured for the people, and then to attract investors. And that is when you will see the issue of agriculture, which is Taraba has a very huge potential for that. We come in, then you bring in some foreign experts like the Israelis and the rest of people that have succeeded in the area of agriculture. You bring them in, they'll be very comfortable to do business in that kind of area. So these are areas that I'm going to look at. Then education. Our children need to be educated. We need to give them quality education. So what I'm trying to come up with to ensure that primary school, secondary school will be free and compulsory for all.
So now when you just mentioned unity, my mind just went to the fact that, yes, the Jukuns and the thieves have always had quite a tiff, before now. I don't know how, and it's age-long. It's age-long rivalry. I don't know what you're going to do about that. You can talk about that. But I want to ask you whether you see the emergence of Senator Emmanuel Boacha, who was a member of your political party, as a threat to your being governor.
No, not a threat to me at all. It's just like I told you, PDP has a structure on ground already, which I'm riding on. And some of them thought they could get through their ambition in PDP, but unfortunately they couldn't. And that's why they went to other parties. PDP have looked through and seen that I'm a preferred candidate, at least to be able to do the justice and to do the job that is required at this moment in time, this perilous time we find ourselves in. So I don't see any other candidate, not to talk of Boachi, as a threat for me.
But the APC ran the PDP close. APC also made inroads for the senatorial ticket. So, and then they've also said, because if you look at the votes they scored consistently now, for the previous elections, for the last election, isn't that a huge cause of concern for the party?
Well, it's not a cause of concern, actually. You see, politics is very dynamic. You look at some of those areas that created room for this kind of breakthrough for a PC or whatever you can call it, and then you try to strategize and work towards ensuring that you meet up with your own vote, especially in the governorship election.
Tell us, did the PDP twist the Labour Party to supporting them? Because they argued that right from the arguments in the court, how the PDP seems to be making a case for the Labour Party person who supported you eventually, but Labour Party is speaking up saying, no, that cannot be the case. Now, they're accusing the PDP of being the one behind all of these manipulations.
You know, everybody wants to accuse PDP for everything, PDP actually has no hand in that. Labour Party, I think they just felt that they're looking at personalities. And they've seen that a candidate that they should be able to lean on, be able to mobilize themselves for. So that is why probably they take that decision. But for saying PDP is the one behind it, well, I think it's just an allegation.
All right, last time we checked, unemployment is about 31.5% in Taraba. That's a lot. What are you doing? What's your plan to create jobs for the youths in the state?
Yeah, I'm going to create an opportunity, employment opportunity, jobs for the youth. How will I go about it? The first thing I'm going to do is to make sure you mobilize the youth. You kind of carry out an attitudinal change, for them to change their attitude towards just going about asking, collecting.
How?
Yeah, you mobilize them, you look for experts that are going to engage them, to talk to them, and then look at the areas that they are very good in, and then you try to spot their potentials, because some people might be good in farming, some people might be good in other areas, some people are educated, they don't have jobs, they finish their school, no job. So you look at areas that they can fit in, then you break them into those areas, look for experts, look for people that will be able to link up with them, and then find a way to train them, empower them.
Do you have probably a template, a target, a mindset in terms of how much of that chunk of that unemployment rate do you plan to immediately reduce and how soon?
Yes, within my 100 days in office, by the grace of God, I will be able to mobilize the youth first, and then look for people that are very good, that can assist in training them in the areas that they will fit in. Then work towards taking them off the street within the first 2 years. So that first 100 days, I'll use that to spot them, to get them, to mobilize them, to get them together, and then breaking them into various areas of their potentials.
All right, my colleagues in Lagos have got some questions for you. Go ahead, guys.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Well, let me begin by asking you, Mr. Kefas, how concerned are you that your governor today, whom you are hoping to take over from, bidded for the Taraba South Senatorial District, and he didn't win? How concerned are you about the fact that that could be a testament that the people have rejected him and the PDP in your state?
I'm from that senatorial zone. And I have the heart of the people. They've known me over time. They know what I can do. And the people are ready to mobilize, to come out to vote for me. So him losing, I think, is a very different situation, even though we never expected that. But we are looking at the situation closely to ensure that such thing does not occur in the next election.
Against the backdrop of some of the things that you said earlier, that, you know, because the PDP has done so well in the state, you were hoping to ride on the power of incumbency, so to speak. So in that regard, seeing that it's the name of the PDP that people are going to see on the ballot and not your face or the face of any candidate, that's the background for that question. So there are those who would wonder whether or not the PDP has not been completely rejected or significantly rejected in the state to the extent that the governor lost his own senatorial bid.
Well, aside riding on the platform of the PDP, I've also gone out for campaigns to show my face to the people, to speak to the people, to say positive things to them, to assure them that I'm going to give them a very good leadership. I'm going to do justice to them. I'm going to make sure life is better for them. And I'm somebody that the people have known, I think, over time of my engagement with community. So they believe what I've told them, and I'm still talking to them. I'm still doing more consultations before the D-Day. So I'm very sure that it's not all about the party alone. My personality too, and character is also playing out in this situation.
Well, that leads me to the question, the next question, which came from some of the things that you were saying in response to some of the questions my colleagues right there with you were asking earlier. And that is, what kind of feedback have you gotten from the people so far? Now, most of the time, government officials or aspirants such as yourself would decide that this is what is best for my people, or this is what I think is best for my people, without being sure whether or not that's exactly what the people really want. So I'm wondering if you have any feedback from the people that tells you, these are the things that I have noticed that the people want, these are the things that they have said to me, and consequently, this is the basis upon which I'm going to do this and that. So what are the things that you're hearing from the people about governance, getting to them or not getting to them?
Actually, the people are expecting so much from the government, and they are not getting much from what they're expecting. So I've already picked that up and trying to get to ensure that the governance gets to the people, especially through the local government executives, because they are the one closer to the people at the grassroots. So when we, by the grace of God, when we come in, we'll be able to make sure that those areas, those feedback from the people, the things they are looking for, especially Taraba is an agricultural state, and people, predominantly, most of the people are farmers, and they want to be assisted so that they can engage themselves in farming activities. So I've had all this. And then they are also looking forward to a good security system where they will be safe in their own state. So, and with my background, I think I'll do a lot in that area to ensure that Taraba is a secure place. So some of these things, we are putting them in place to ensure that we'll be able to meet the demands of the people, because governance is all about the people. So if you don't have that interaction, you're able to give back to them what they are looking for, then you're just running the government for yourself. So make sure that we meet the needs of the people.
Mr. Kefas, I'm concerned about your emergence as the candidate of the party in the state. Reports say that you were imposed on the party in a most undemocratic way. And as a result, there are many who were also interested in that position who are dissatisfied. I'm talking about people like the former Speaker, Professor Jerome Inyame, Dr. Ikaya Abuba Joda, Mr. Ikenya. How have you reached out to these individuals to ensure that they're on the same page with you and they will be working for your emergence as governor in Saturday's election?
Thank you very much. Well, in the first place, I wasn't imposed on them. We had a credible, transparent primary election, which I won. Since after the election, I reached out to them, but they decided to go to the court to fight it through. They went to the Federal High Court, Appeal Court, Supreme Court, and I won. But right now, as I'm talking to you, all of them, they are already preparing to come on board. We are reaching out to them. I've spoken to some of them. And we are in agreement because it is the same house. PDP is a family. We have a way we bring ourselves together. So I don't think we'll have that issue anymore because I'm coming to make sure that everybody's together. We need everybody to be able to move the state forward at this difficult time we find ourselves.
Well, I'm still curious about how satisfied everyone is within your party because of the other concern also that your emergence as the candidate of the party in the state is also a disregard for the what they call the standard zoning arrangement of the party. So what assurance are you giving that indeed everyone is happy that you have emerged in spite of the fact that you know, your candidacy is a breach of the zoning arrangement in your party?
Well, I wouldn't want to dive into that issue because at this stage where we are now, we're trying to move forward. But what I will tell you confidently is that all these issues are being resolved, and we are looking at the lives of over 4 million people in Taraba. We're looking at the security of the people. We're looking at the feelings of the people. We're looking at what people are going through. And for me, I have no any other business than to make sure that I play my part to make sure that the people have sense of belonging. So I've been talking to them, and those people you're talking about, they know me as a person. And I think they all have high regards for me as a person. But, you know, it's politics. So, and I've tried talking to them. Other leaders also spoke to them, and we are getting together. Before Saturday, all of us will be on the same page, and we're going to work together for the success of the election.
The defeat of the incumbent, you know, in his senatorial ambition is also a sticking point, and some of the issues arising as a result of that is some of his policies, which include, you know, the outright sale of the Highland tea, the former state-owned Highland tea in the state, and then there are issues about, you know, pensioners being owed in the state, just amongst other, factors that, members of the citizens of Taraba State are dissatisfied with him over. There's also the appointment of a certain traditional ruler from, a part of the state other than where that traditional ruler should have come from. I'd just like to know if you would reverse some of these policies just to assuage, the aggrieved should you become governor.
Well, thank you very much. The primary purpose of governance is to make sure that the people are treated the way they're supposed to be treated. Some of these things that have been raised, we'll make sure we look at it. Where we'll be able to resolve them. And where we'll not be able to resolve, we'll try to still talk to them, appeal to them, dialogue, and then see that we'll find solution and to reduce crisis. So I believe that by the time we come in, by the grace of God, we'll be able to do something on that.
All right, so as we wind down now, could you tell us, because I do know that some time ago, I think sometime in 2021, salaries were not paid for 7 months. They're really concerned. We're hoping that this is not going to be a thing if you win.
Yes, I remember I just came out from a military background. I've served in the civil service as a military officer for 21 years. So I've also been on salary for that period, and I'm still collecting my pension. So I know what it is to not to be paid salary. So I've assured the people that their salary will be paid, their pension will be paid, and it's going to come regularly.
So are you assuring the people that security would not be a challenge when you come in there?
Definitely. I've done it before in the Niger Delta, where I served in Warri in Delta State. I was one of the people involved to ensure that the militants, they accept amnesty, is there on record. The Jukun thief crisis which you raised, when His Excellency Susan was governor of Benin State, I had a meeting with him, and we resolved that crisis. That's why you can't hear anything about Jukun and thief anymore. There was a time we have a religious crisis in Wukari in Taraba State. I was the one that set up a 20-man committee, 10 Muslim youth, 10 Christian youth, bring them together, resolve the issue. So I think I'm very good in that, and I'm ready to make sure that the people are safe, because that is the number one responsibility.
All right, so they can hear you. They'll hold anyone who wins, who promises this kind of things in Taraba State. But we do thank you for coming on, retired Lieutenant Colonel Agbu Kafas, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Taraba. Thank you for coming on, and all the best.
Thank you very much.
We will be back in a moment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily, continuing our focus on Taraba politics. Now, we do have Senator Emmanuel Bacha, who is the governorship candidate of the APC in Taraba State. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, even up until yesterday, some days ago, we still read how they claim to have suspended you, some members of your party, after the several court battles that you've had. In fact, the PDP, some of them say, well, you may have survived some of those cases, but this time around, they won't let you survive. They will make sure that they defeat you at the polls. Are you going to be able to weather the storm this time?
A plethora of desperate moves occasioned by fear of my person being in this race. And it started long ago. And I can assure you, on each front, I have emerged victorious. And the story will be the same on Saturday, the 18th of this month.
But can you afford to go into this election with several key persons in your party not supporting you? Because, I mean, in politics, they say, look, any support is welcome from any quarters. But if you have these key persons coming into the election not supporting you, that could count for something. Some say, look at what happened in this last presidential elections. It could happen again.
Well, those who are not supporting me, I will rather say they are bad losers. They are those who lost out in the primary election. And in the spirit of a contest like this, it is better to accept results as they come. Unfortunately, it's become very typical of the African scenario that people don't want to accept losing elections. The people you say are key players in the APC, I am yet to understand them. Which of them specifically? And then I can take you into a historical excursion of his political exploit.
Well, I'm not sure you have all the time to do that, but you already know those who took you to court. You have your colleague senators, you have the candidates of the APC in Taraba State, DSK, who says, no, they will not support you because you didn't do what you're supposed to do, that the party is imposing you on them and they will not have it. And so this election may be dicey for you.
I don't see how this election will be dicey if I was able to deliver my senatorial district to the APC. Both the House of Representatives, one subsisting, and the Senate. That is the only zone that the APC won. Ask my colleague who also took me to court what was his showing. He couldn't win because he is not at home, he's not on ground. So I am very confident of those I'm working with in the state. I know the key players that came with me from the PDP to the APC. And naturally, you should expect that spirit of envy or intolerance when you see that somebody that has the capacity to win an election that you couldn't have and is given the opportunity to run. Naturally, you become offended, priding as somebody who had been there, as a landlord, so to speak. Well, I think that is the prevailing situation or circumstance.
Delivering a senator, a House of Rep member is not enough for the governorship. You need more than that.
The message I'm passing here is I am home and dry. I am consolidated at home, willing to face adversaries outside. You must prepare at home before you go out for battle.
And I think that's what Chamberlain is trying to emphasize, the fact that, you know, even at home, it would seem that key stakeholders are not at home with you. And if a house is divided against itself, the question is, how is it going to stand? Unless, of course, you're dependent on a support base outside of your own political party.
My entire support is premised on local politicians. I am not an Abuja-based politician. Many of them who are loud in Abuja and are absent at home are there and appear to be heard more than those of us that are with the people at home. So what we do at home is to reach out to the people. The people are tired, in the APC in particular, the electorate, they are tired of being in opposition. But a few of the elite, not all, because significant number of them are with me, a few of them who want to bargain with the people's right to go and look for political appointment. They want to be on the ballot, and they know they will lose. So when they lose, they will come back to Abuja and look for a ministerial appointment. That is what most of them do. So it's not as if a house divided against itself. The fences had been mended. We're moving on.
But there are a few threats. We saw you on television the other day alongside other candidates, complaining that the Christian Association of Nigeria in Taraba State has endorsed the candidacy of the PDP. Is that correct? I'm just wondering, looking at the dynamics. You heard so. We saw you on TV. Wasn't that you? Looking at the dynamics in Taraba State and how also, I don't want to say whether it is sadly or happily, religion plays a huge role in the politics of Taraba. That certainly gave you cause for concern, didn't it?
It didn't give me cause for concern because I know the officials who appended a signature in that letter were not speaking the minds of Christians in Taraba State. Number one. And number two, I want to stress a point, that I'm not a candidate of any religion in Taraba State. The core reason why I came to this contest was to unite the people of Taraba State. As I speak with you, the Muslims have their own candidate. So the CAN, which is an umbrella organization of Christians, said they're endorsing the PDP candidate. The people, both Christians and Muslims, have me as their candidate. I'm talking of the people now, not officials. Now, when you have a rotten head and the body is still strong, they are struggling to leave that head and come and identify with their choice. Because the CAN chairman, Taraba State CAN chairman, who heads my denominational church, met me and said that statement was made in error. He didn't sign it personally, because that is the head of my denominational church.
Did you say it publicly?
He told me. I cannot lie. I'm speaking on national television. Are you following?
So what do you mean by rotten head? What head is rotten then?
Yeah. The leadership of the CAN there didn't work with the people. Several clusters of the Christian Association came out to refute that and said, no, that is not our position. That is not. Over 80 pastors came to Jalingo and addressed press conference and different other sectors of Christian unit in the state.
Was that before or after you did your press conference?
That was after our press conference. That was after our press conference. Because the three of us, myself, Danladi Baido, and Senator Joel Ikenya, were all in agreement that that was done in error. And what the state needs now is a cohesive state, a united front, both Christians and Muslims to coexist together. By the time you sort out one person, this is a candidate for Christian, this is a candidate for Muslim, you will be intensifying the cleavage. And that is what we are running away from. We want to be united. What people are crying for is development of infrastructure, not religionists. No. I have said to people in my campaigns that I'm a candidate of God. I'm not a candidate of religious politicians. There are religious politicians who use religion, and it is available in all the two religions, both the Muslims and Christians.
So are you suggesting that even though you describe them derogatorily, are you saying that people will not listen to them as much as they think they will be listened to because they're still in those positions?
I am speaking the minds of larger segment of Christians in Taraba State. They are opposed to that decision because it will further divide the church. They made that endorsement in 2015, and people are mourning now. The people are saying, no, don't take us that way again. This is what we did in 2015, and look at the state of affairs in Taraba State now. Everything has fallen apart.
I'm just wondering, Taraba ought to be a haven for, when people think about Taraba, for those who, have heard or read about Taraba, they know about Mambila the Mambila Hills. They've also heard about Mambila Hydro Dam, which we hear from time to time in the federal government budget. They're supposed to bring on hydropower projects, from the Mambila Hills. They think of the fact that that place could be a tourist haven, an agriculture haven, yet it's still struggling to meet the potential that, God has endowed it with in terms of natural resources that it's been blessed with. Do you intend to explore the path of tourism and bringing, the people to Taraba? If you do, if it's one of the plans that you have, how do you intend to achieve it for Taraba State?
Actually, that is what informed one of the key goals that informed my emergence. Besides the tourist potential, there are natural mineral resources that Taraba is endowed with that we have no reason to be begging the federal government for allocation monthly. Now, this needs to be done through partnership with investors outside of the shores of this country. And this has been lacking because there is no honesty or transparency in governance. What we seek to do is to ensure that there is honesty and transparency in governance, a zero tolerance for corruption.
What do you mean,
now,
honesty and transparency? How do you intend to bring that about?
How we want to do that, nothing will be done under the wraps. If a government is embarking on a particular project, everything should be kept open. If a government is borrowing money for development, we should know how that money is channeled for development. But our worry is when money is borrowed and the money disappears into private pockets. This is the biggest challenge we have in this country and in my state.
So this is your biggest criticism against the governor who's currently there now, but you have been a member of his party for, up until just last year. That criticism never came from you.
That is what informed my departure from the party. I tried to counsel against such, but I was seen as a rebel, so I had to leave.
In the twilight of his governorship?
Sure.
Isn't that more about you not about to get the ticket? That's why you left?
Get which ticket? Of governorship?
Of the PDP.
But I've gotten it, and I'm going to win by the grace of God.
No, you've gotten out of the APC.
Yes, I got it after the APC. You don't expect something good to come from there when there is no righteousness. So that is why I'm telling you that we try to counsel against unrighteousness. But we're seen as opposition element in the party, a party that I toiled to build.
You say you make a lot of things open. Will that include making open security votes if you win?
Sure. What is wrong about telling people what is your security vote? These are things that people hide in this country, and things are growing from bad to worst.
No, not just telling the people how much it is, but how you spend it as well.
Sure. So if you ask, the Freedom of Information Bill that we passed is intended to achieve purposes like this. So if you inquire of how security vote is spent, I will tell you.
How do you plan to convince the people of Taraba, some of them who have the impression that the government at the center, the APC-led government, hasn't done well in Taraba, particularly concerning security, especially when they remember the comments of General T.Y. Danjuma about security? How would you convince such people?
Well, let me tell you, security challenge is a national challenge. We know it very well. There is no part of this country that is not faced with that challenge. But this is not an excuse for us not to tackle the problem. If I may even say, it is a global phenomenon now. And why? Because the world has left God. And that is why evil is prevailing in the world. But coming to Taraba State, the presence of the APC in the center is there, and I can tell you for free that that is what informed my movement to the APC. Look at the EB Bridge. That is the project we have clamored for long. And the APC government at the center awarded that contract. That project is ongoing. Now, if that bridge is built and completed, it connects Taraba State to the center, to the southeast, to the southwest, and virtually all parts of Nigeria. That is a great opportunity that will open up economic activities.
In other words, you're saying that the APC hasn't done well in security.
Has it been so even from the PDP? Didn't it start with us in the PDP? The Boko Haram that started, they gave it different coloration. And the APC came and met this crisis on ground. So that is why I'm telling you that it is a global phenomenon. It's a national problem. So you cannot identify this problem with a political party.
Well, wouldn't they trust a former, a retired lieutenant colonel to be able to handle the problems of security more than they will trust you to be able to do it?
Than to a security problem.
Yes.
Is security the problem of Taraba now? It's under development and primitive accumulation. Security now is not a major problem of Taraba, it's the major problem of Nigeria. It's not the major problem of Taraba State. The problem of Taraba State is poverty occasioned by primitive stealing. That is the problem of Taraba State now. It's not which insecurity in Taraba State. The basic problem in Taraba State is poverty that is biting hard on everybody.
But how do you improve the economy if it's not secure?
That is why I'm telling you that the major problem is not security in Taraba State. Security is a major problem in Nigeria, but in Taraba, it's poverty and want occasioned by primitive accumulation and stealing.
Yeah, but you say you plan to bring investment to Taraba.
Yes.
If the state is not secure, you cannot bring the investment.
I think we are speaking different in Chamberlain. I told you that security, as we speak now, is not a major problem in Taraba State. It's a major problem in Nigeria. Taraba, of course, a flashpoint, but it is not biting as other places. What worries the common Taraba man is poverty. Pensions, salaries are not paid. All these are issues at stake that has worried the people. Now, if somebody is not paid, it will give rise to some other crime that will have been curtailed, you know. Now, take for instance, kidnapping, for example. All these are product of poverty. You know, the youth are not engaged, many of them in their numbers. And there are many things that will have been done. You know, promotion of growth of small-scale industries, you know, private investment and all that. It's not everybody's eye is on government money. Now, if these things are not addressed, you should expect reaction, fallback effect. And that is why these small security challenges, we come across them because they are product of mismanagement and corruption.
So I am just wondering, I mean, apart from the endorsement now that has been given by CAN, and you've spoken extensively on that, we also see that the Labour Party, which has gained significant ground also in your state, has endorsed the PDP candidate.
Which Labour Party? Which Labour Party?
Taraba State.
You don't consider the Labour Party evangelist?
If I may ask you, who is the candidate of the Labour Party in Taraba State? It's Senator Joel Ikeyam. It is the other splinter group who felt defeated. It's just like what we are facing in the APC. It's all over. I told you there's a typical Nigerian character trait. Somebody who loses election, oh, I refuse, I do not agree. It's very typical of Nigerians.
Yeah, but interestingly, the splinter group is not even endorsing you. They're endorsing the PDP candidate. Doesn't that say something about, your chances?
We will see all of that on Saturday. Whether that endorsement will translate to vote. Are you following? We will see all that on Saturday.
Let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos.
Yeah, Senator Bwacha, I'm interested in your candidacy yet again. A few days ago, a federal high court ordered INEC not to delist your name from its list of candidates for the APC. But then again, even though you have emerged in that manner, I wonder if you have enough, objectivity within you to ask how the Federal High Court has the powers to interpret the order of the Supreme Court, which had nullified your candidacy initially, because the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land.
Thank you for that question. This affords me opportunity to educate people about what the Federal High Court... The Federal High Court in the judgment clearly stated it was not interpreting the judgment of the Supreme Court. At no point did the Supreme Court say I was not fit to contest. What the Supreme Court did was to uphold the judgment of the trial court, which gave a consequential order that there should be a rerun. And that consequential order had not been challenged and set aside by the Apex Court. What the Apex Court set aside, and some curious and armchair lawyers are carrying about, is that what they call otious, which was a reference to the demands of the appellant, who said he should be paid 1 billion naira and he should be paid the money for his forms because he was not involved in the election. So the court didn't grant that. And the court said we should go back and do a rerun. This is what we did. But the people are running with false information. The Federal High Court said, look, this candidate is still the candidate because the rerun was conducted and then he emerged. And nobody challenged that rerun. INEC had enlisted him. But while I was in Taraba State, the story the opposition, the PDP was doing, because the PDP is so afraid of me that what they do is to blackmail. They were saying, I'm not on the ballot, I'm not on the ballot. But I was in the trenches campaigning. So I had to call the INEC chairman. I couldn't get him. I asked my lawyer, go and check up, because so that they don't take you from 18. You know, in football, somebody can take you from 18. So they went to court, find out from INEC. And the INEC chairman called me, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and said, you took us to court. What happened, distinguished senator? I said, I couldn't get you, but I was afraid. They're telling me I'm not on the ballot. What happened? He said, how could you allow yourself to be deceived by ignorant people like that? Your name is on the ballot, so why should you even go to court? I said, okay, in that case, let your lawyer tell the court that nobody delisted me. And the lawyer did in the Federal High Court. And the court now said, if you have not delisted his name, don't tamper with his name, because it's a product of a rerun election that was affirmed by the Supreme Court. And the public must be educated about this, because that judgment was not interpreting the Supreme Court judgment. No. It was to ensure that what the Supreme Court wanted done had been done, and it shouldn't be tampered with.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. But then again, even that primary that was reconducted is still being disputed by members of your party. But let's make progress, Senator Boachia. It's a tricky one. Your party has made so much investment on you, even with the appeal, with the High Court judgment that has affirmed you, ordering INEC not to delist your name. But then again, it is the PDP that has won the presidential election in the party. So what's the justification for such a high premium that has been placed on your candidates in the first place if you were not able to deliver, the presidential election to the APC in the state?
I delivered to the APC in my zone, number one. And then number two, remember in the presidential elections, a lot of issues were at play. For me to even deliver my zone, it was a tug of war. Because the issues that came up in the presidential elections are no longer there. Remember, religion also played a key role. You know, Peter Obi made some inroad into Taraba State because of religion. We tried also to let the people know that this election is not about religion. But you know, being an opium of the people, it became a difficult task. So that the issues that were at stake are no longer there now. But the APC made a significant showing. Nobody gave the APC a chance in Taraba State, given the issues at play. But we try to create the difference and educate the people that, look, this matter is not about religion. It's about winning this election.
It appears a tricky contest still for the APC, even for the PDP in the state, because the candidacy of the PDP candidate was disputed, just as yours was disputed. For instance, the PDP lost Taraba North to the APC. Right. Yet again, the PDP carried the day in the presidential election. If you look at the results of the National Assembly elections also, the PDP won some House of Representatives seats, but won also 2 out of the 3 senatorial elections. So it appears that, all of the disgruntled elements may be working at cross purposes for the APC and the PDP in the state. So it appears that the election could go either way, despite how confident you are that you're going to win in this in Saturday's election. So to what extent do you think the division will affect your chances in Saturday's poll?
Well, what I've tried to prove is the person who took me to court from my zone at least has seen that I've been able to assert my presence in the South by the grace of God. In the North, a lot of issues were at stake. The candidate of the APC in the North emerged under very controversial circumstances. And it is said that the voting pattern in the North largely were protest votes, And in the Central, which is still a subject of litigation, we are working to find out what happened about the Beavers operation in Central Taraba. And this is in court. Our candidate is in court because the way the voting was carried out, even the person who won himself knows that it's not yet an Uhuru. It's not time for party yet, because we are wondering how there could be accreditation without people. And it's showing, technology has gone far. It's not time for you to go and sleep when you reek, because the facts are there and they will tell you. So in the House of Representatives election, we have 3, and the PDP has 3. So in the Senate election, I can tell you for free, we were trusting God that we are going to win the whole 3 senatorial districts, except for the controversies surrounding the emergence of some of these candidates. And it's very common, we know, in our politics, that when you feel somebody that has a lot of controversies surrounding him, the people will naturally react. Just as you say that some people were not satisfied with me, but the question is, those who are not satisfied with you, do they carry that grace to be able to turn the table against you? That is the question. Because if you are dealing with wrong people, then you definitely reap it. But if the wrong people are not on your side, you have nothing to worry. You can go and sleep. Well, that is what happened in the Taraba election, in the national and presidential election.
Well, Senator Boacha, there is an allegation by your party of plans by your own opposition to rig the elections on Saturday. It was contained in a press briefing which was given by one of the members of your party in Taraba State. To what extent can you confirm that to be true, and what have you or your party done about it?
Well, we have been communicating and informing the security agencies. We have information that violence will be used in this election. 2 days ago, we intercepted a candidate of the State Assembly with arms. The people called the military. Before they came, he sped off. And the youth followed up. He left the scene. And the guns, assault rifles, were seen in the vehicle. And we are told that Okari, which is the home base of the candidate of the APC, they are going to unleash violence. We have all informed the military to be on the watch out. So we are waiting to see how much they will go. As for the PDP, there is no doubt they have lost confidence of winning this election, because if you look at the blackmail surrounding my candidature, it's all emerging from the PDP. From day one. I'm going to come to that. You know, when you have enemies from within, people that are working for another party, DSK openly declare for the PDP candidate. And we alerted the world that this man is working with the opposition. In fact, it was alleged that it was the governor that bought him the form to contest. In fact, the common man in the street in Taraba is aware of this.
Allegation,
Yusuf,
as you said.
Allegation, that's right.
All
Yusuf recently also joined in the fray, because if it is not me, let the roof collapse on all of us. That is the position.
As we did ask, if a house is divided against itself, can it stand? But you say this Saturday will give us all the answers we're looking for.
By the grace of God.
We thank you for coming on, and all the best.
I thank you for giving me the opportunity to educate the people about the undercurrents,
All right, Senator Emmanuel Boacha is the governorship candidate for the APC in Taraba State. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Yes, Mr. Michael Mary joins us next. He is a former Director General for the National Orientation Agency. He's also a member of the PDP. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
You know, when you sit back and just watch all that seems to be unfolding in the country, the currency scenario, information about elections, how things have turned out, and you think about orientation, what comes to your mind when you hear people say, look, who's supposed to be telling us how certain things should go? Do you regret how things have turned out so far?
Well, of course I would regret, because I wish we had moved from a notch higher from where we were, you know. But every day I see a downslide in the things we do and how we react to Nigerians, how we even, as a government, interact with Nigerians.
From an NOA perspective, who should be stepping into the gap?
From an NOA perspective, yes, the NOA has a major role to play, critical role to play, but has the government realized, the government in which this important agency is a part of, realized the role of the NOA within the scheme of governance? These are some of the issues that we should interrogate in determining the performance of the NOA in all of these. I saw like few examples of the currency swap and all of that. I have not seen the NOA given the opportunity to discharge full, its duties effectively. I saw them making the effort, but when I see what they do, I know that they are constrained.
Because, I mean, you have the benefit of insight and hindsight. Yes, so yes. You think that they're not getting as much support as they ought to be?
The attention, they are not getting a look in as they should.
But when you were DG of NOA, I'm not sure you got the kind of support, 100% support as you wanted. You didn't speak up, did you?
Yeah, we did. And I remember, proposing to the government that it should be turned into a commission so we can be placed on the first line charge.
Speaking of publicly?
Yes, we did.
Or just to the presidency?
We did. We spoke publicly at the time, I remember. And, what sustained us largely was our interaction with the development partners. But, there's a limit to what they can do and how much they would support you if it does not, tally with their own interest.
If I could just delve into Nasarawa politics, and I think my colleagues will follow up on that a bit much later. Given how events turned out in Nasarawa State, we know we do have some PDP bigwigs in Nasarawa, but how big they are now, the results don't seem to describe them or won't support that tag of PDP being bigwigs in Nasarawa. They say that's history now. If you look at the immediate history, as a matter of fact, the last elections in the state where Labour Party, whoa, who would have thought? Labour Party just coming in and sweeping the state over 191,000 odd votes. And then APC, the ruling government there, was second, and PDP was a distant third. What makes you think PDP will have any chance to come here?
First and foremost, the obedient movement was a nationwide win that could consume anybody. And you knew most of the votes that the obedient movement got were from members of the People's Democratic Party. We are aware of that because when we went around to solicit for support and explain our direction to the people, they told us that they will vote us, but we should allow them to use their conscience in the presidential election. We pleaded with them. We did the best we could that politicians could do to get them to vote the PDP. But I want to tell you that that win was the same win that won in Delta, the same win that won in the FCT, the same win that just won everywhere. So the labor movement was an indication of this, signs of the time. Perhaps people have seen everyone and they just needed fresh ideas. It was the candidate they went for.
But
from what we saw.
Isn't the same wind about to blow again on Saturday?
Yeah, it will only blow because they went for the candidates. So what we are bringing is an interesting, fresh candidate and perspective to politics and the delivery of service. And we believe people will go for that. And we have seen it already. The Labour candidate in Nasarawa State has already collapsed his structure into the PDP, and not just him, other parties, APM, NRP, you mentioned them. they have all collapsed their structures into the PDP because they have seen the direction and what we want to do. For the first time in a long period, the PDP bigwigs that you mentioned have all come together and gravitated towards this young man who has come with solid ideas. For all of us to support this young man, way younger than all of us, is because we believe that power should gradually transit to those who have the energy, the vision, and let's support Nigeria to move forward.
Well, it's interesting that it's 3 weeks is, you had to do a reassessment, a very sharp reassessment in 3 weeks. Yeah. I'm just wondering, though, because I know we're talking specifically about Nasarawa, but, more generally, are there other states where you think that, given what happened 2 Saturdays ago, that the PDP needs to take a closer look at how it has run, perhaps, its own affairs in those states?
Well, I have seen... I've heard from colleagues in Plateau, neighboring Plateau, for instance, what is happening there. They are also upbeat and unsure of where they are going to. There are states where, yes, the primaries threw up lots of challenges and there are still arguments even as we speak. An election is 2 or 3 days away. Now, these ones, I want to, trust the sophistication of the Nigerian voter, having experienced over 20 years of democracy, to choose the idea, to choose where we want to go collectively. And I don't really, for me, I don't really mind if Nigerians cherry pick candidates based on ideas, based on the perspective, fresh perspectives that are bringing to
so you don't mind the rice and beans phenomenon, as it's called?
Because we need to run. We have always had politicians who come lie to us, and we have, some. Unfortunately,
that sounds anti-party.
No, I am not.
You
see, I believe in my party. I believe in the ideas that my party would throw up for development. But if you bring a wrong person whose antecedents does not speak well, only that he has the capacity to speak nicely and perhaps dress nicely and present himself, why should I go for him? I want my country to make the progress. I don't want us to still stay in one place.
It seems that, parties have found themselves in difficult situations now, but it's going to be very difficult to say, oh, you know what, vote for my party here, but in another election, vote for another party here. Parties have found themselves in pretty tight situations.
This election in Nasarawa State, we believe that the candidate of the PDP at the presidential level and David Ombugadu for the gubernatorial, and all our candidates, most of our candidates were meant to be candidates for the moment. Because it's not just about their antecedents and experience, but we have seen where they want to take the nation to or the state to. Atiku's candidacy attempted, well, if he had win, and we believe that from what they are doing now, the chances are still there that he could make it if the justice system would follow its own rules. And if it does happen, we have seen a blueprint that is designed to take care of the present, short term, and prepare Nigerians for the bigger bust out, the bigger revolution that we need. So we are equipped, we are challenged to understand that we have a nation to build, and each and every one of us has a responsibility to it. Not to be driven by, little things that attract us to, to vote for people when they just, we lose them. We lose our conscience, we lose our road, and we lose our democracy.
It's interesting you say you spoke to people in neighboring Plateau State. The politics in Plateau is a bit dynamic in the sense that the Labour Party won in Plateau, as it did also in Nasarawa State. But at least some senatorial candidates emerged from other parties, unlike in Plateau, where the PDP won all 3 senatorial seats.
I understand they are discussing to find common grounds in Plateau, and if they do, then the PDP is most likely to take the ticket.
Not from what we heard from the Labour Party candidate.
Well, the Labour Party candidate is my friend, Patrick Dakum. He's a good fellow.
We spoke with him
and we wish he was in the PDP because he would stand a better chance in the PDP.
Well, he says he thinks that it is the PDP that should step down for him.
Well, they are discussing, so that is for Plateau politics. Let them discuss. I'm sure they will find common grounds.
Okay, my colleagues have questions for you as well.
something that we'll be interested in to raise issues around the NOA, and thankfully because you headed that institution at some point. You know, I'm looking at about 15 functions of the NOA, and I'm finding it very difficult to pick just one because they are so nationalistic, very, very precise. One of them, for instance, talks about raising the consciousness of Nigerians about the unity of the country. Another one talks about raising the spirit of patriotism and all of that in Nigerians. Back in time, the parent organization, should I say, of the NOA, which is MAMSA. Many people haven't forgotten the functions and the noise, the resounding noise that MAMSA made in raising the consciousness of patriotism and all of that in Nigerians. What are the challenges that you think the NOA as an institution is having? I know you spaded the matter, but can you help us understand so people can sympathize and possibly even contribute whatever they can to ensure that the NOA performs optimally in the interest of the country?
MAMSA, as a government agency, operated under the military, where they didn't have PDP, APC, and all manner of parties ruling the respective states. So they were getting the right support. Here, where, in fact, our state offices are not getting any support at all from the state governments. When I was there, we proposed that states should give us land, and we will use the meager resources we have to build offices. Because the offices of NOA, visit the one in Lagos. They are locked somewhere. They are not able to have a comfortable place to work. They are not able to do so many things in terms of funding their activities. And this is not coming from government. So unlike the MAMSA days, now the various political parties even misunderstood the role of the NOA. They just see it as a mouthpiece of government and therefore should speak about government programs, projects, and activities only. But this is just a minute part of the role of the NOA, speaking about government programs, policies, and activities to ensure that citizens key in or buy into these programs and contribute their own support into the delivery of governance dividends. Now, for me, I think the NOA, as it is presently constituted, is well-trained, is well-equipped, it has the staff, it has the vision, and just like you said, I'm happy you went through the mandate of the agency. But is government willing to implement these things? Because some of those items you see there that the agency is supposed to propagate may even run counter to the government's intention. When we were in NOA, we started what we call a weekly polling, asking Nigerians to vote and tell us what they really think government was doing wrong. And we spoke about it. We even sent our findings to the then President Jonathan. He acted on many of them anyway. So some of these reports are not palatable because they are actually telling you where government is failing. And you have to be a government that wants to get that kind of feedback to succeed, not a government that once it gets feedback, it gets angry with the people, gets angry, and then all the feedback we get from government are insults that we've been having in the last couple of years.
Well, Mr. Mary, if what you are saying is to be considered in the light, as you have said it, being that you have, as Chamberlain said, the benefit of insight and hindsight, is that suggesting to you in any way that governments, be it federal or states, are not interested in the NOA and so it should be scrapped? Or that you would ask for some form of legislation to empower it and compel whatever needs to be done to ensure that it gets the required funding to perform the functions of helping Nigerians see the country as one?
It's unconscionable to ask government to scrap the NOA, noting and knowing what it can do and the capacities within it. What we need to do is to strengthen it to discharge the duties. Let it play its role very well. Look, we have the NOA has role to play from the beginning of life in this country. because we need to introduce a number of civic things and value-driven things. We need to engage our traditional rulers who should freely and truthfully, if they believe in this country, tell us what they value most in their communities. Let's incorporate them into what we teach and what we preach so that our citizens will grow with the values they need, not for the present life, but for their future. Look, because we are not doing that enough, that is why you see people entering government and becoming excessively corrupt. They just look at themselves. The churches and mosques are not doing enough. So, and the NOA is the other arm, is the government church or the government mosque that should provide, that should help inculcate these values into citizens. We need that kind of extensive collaboration, and government should fund the NOA properly. I'm not going to miss this thing. And if should there be any desire, there should be a legislation that will make the NOA as independent as possible to discharge these functions.
Well, Mr. Omeri,
not by
we've had
Nigerians at the time.
My apologies for butting in. We've had a lot of stories around insecurity in the country today. Do you think that we can say part of the reason for the rise in insecurity cases in the country is because NOA has not been as effective as it should have been? That if the NOA had been as efficient and as effective, we wouldn't have as severe security issues that we've had in the past few years?
I know that NOA has capacity for certain intelligence across the country, but NOA is not the arm that should be held solely responsible for the breakdown of law or insecurity in this country. NOA can assist, NOA can do its job, but we have other agencies whose sole number one duty is to get intelligence and put a stop to security breaches across the land. And if they are not doing it, you cannot blame the NOA. NOA has a role, yes. It can only teach people, it can only talk, it can mobilize and explain, but there are agencies solely responsible for gathering intelligence and using them. Even NOA, with its capacity for intelligence gathering, shares it with all of these agencies, that I know.
Since we're talking about the role of the NOA, let me begin by drawing attention to the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections. Mr. Omeri, if anything, the results, enhanced religious and ethnic fault lines, and those two are closely related. If you look at how Plateau State voted, how Nasarawa State voted, and indeed even in the Southwest, how the Southwest voted. The only state that went, that voted differently is Osun. But then again, the result there, has just a very slim margin between the PDP and the All Progressives Congress. So, Mr. Omeri, do you think we should accept this as our fault line, as our default? Or is there any role that the NOA can play in reorientating Nigerians, especially because, if I may borrow your words, you describe the NOA as the church and the mosque of government?
You see, I don't want to even believe that is the outcome, that the outcome of this election is a reflection of our desire to vote candidates based on religion and so forth, and those fault lines. You see, let's look at the antecedents of government. This thing that manifested in the last election is a reflection of where the government took us to. The government deliberately did things that made the rest of the country, to begin to suspect, to begin to look at themselves, to double check whether they are citizens of this country. And so it led to the kind of opinions that we saw. If a government will stay for 8 years and be employing people, engaging people to serve the rest of Nigeria without recourse to ensuring balances and equity and all of that, as if competence resides in the monopoly of just one group, then these are the kind of things that will, that can lead to what we saw in the obedient movement. People have capacity and skills, but they are left out. Then you see someone who may not even have the competence, but he is there simply because the president controls or he's discharging a kind of not equal kind of disposition. So that translated into what you saw, would we say that the labor movement that removed Philip Aduda in the FCT, a Christian, and brought a Muslim, is Christian-driven? It's not. Would you say that in Okowa State, that is predominantly Muslim, and the Christians lost there, how would you explain those? Or in Nasarawa State and so forth? The case in Nasarawa is just a deliberate attempt by some people who have failed to deliver. Then they resort to the religious value to get the attention
I wonder
they
if
they deserve.
I wonder if all of
voters.
I wonder
Because
if
we
those
didn't need it.
examples.
For instance, in Nasarawa,
Pardon me to coming there.
we woke up. I am giving you an example.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
For instance, in Nasarawa State, the voters said they will be obedient and vote. And among this crowd, we saw Muslims, we saw those who do not profess Islam and Christianity. We saw Christians. We saw them. But as soon as the election was over, people came and started insinuating all manner of things, insulting people, calling people infidels, and all sorts of things in Nasarawa. So who is doing this? And why should they do that? We have voted Muslims all these years and nobody complained. Just that one Christian has a chance to win. Everybody, hell must be let loose. Everybody must go to and burn himself there. These are the kind of it's individuals who promote this, not the desire of Nigerians solely. It's the politicians, some of the politicians who do this. And that is what we want to run away from. And that is why we're even supporting our candidate, David Mbugadu. Because we have seen his antecedents and we know that if he comes in, he will treat everyone on the basis of equality and discharge the responsibility of that office according to the provisions and letter of the Constitution.
I wonder if
and
those
I wouldn't
examples,
be part of that kind of
Mr.
game
Mary,
that will come and divide my people.
Pardon me, Mr. Mary. I wonder if those examples that you have cited are as far-reaching as possible, to really give the election a different outlook rather than what it looks like. But still on the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections, we have 8 political parties that have emerged, as parties that will be represented at the National Assembly. And of course, the Labour Party significantly played, a game-changing role in the elections, such that we no longer have a 2-party state, a 3-party state, even dotted by other political parties. What do you see the National Assembly, what kind of 10th National Assembly do you think we'll be seeing with this entry, into the fray of other political parties besides the 2 main political parties?
Allowed to discharge their role effectively as legislators. They will bring, the check that the legislature itself needed to discharge its own function. Because when you have a majority in one party, if the policies they are propounding are not good, we end up with bad policies, bad legislation. We have seen it in recent past. So let these various parties come with their own ideas. Let them interrogate the issues that are being thrown up for legislation. And should we do that? If we do that, I am sure we'll have better laws. We'll have a government that is, held accountable, is able to be held accountable by the legislature.
So if I understand you right, the PDP in Nasarawa is hoping that in the collapse of the structure or the coming together or working together with the Labour Party and some other parties is expected to guarantee them victory for the polls.
In addition to our own capacity and the level of support and the vision that we have, yes.
So how do we explain, because if you said that they wanted to express themselves by voting Labour Party, how do you explain SDP winning senatorial seats?
Real politics. I don't know whether I should discuss it the way I know it, but I knew it affects the other parties, the APC and the Labour Day. These SDP candidates and winners are a product of a mishap in the APC. So they left because they had issues with their primaries and all of that. They scattered and supported themselves the way they did. Some of them are still in APC, only that they are factions of the APC.
So they'll be working for APC in
Well, let's
governorship
see
elections.
how far they can go, because I want to tell you, and you can take it, you can call me back, that any attempt by those people to work for the APC will backfire.
How do you mean?
Because majority of the people in those areas also voted the candidates for those offices and not the SDP or the APC. And they are coming right back to vote the PDP.
I thought you said some of them were APC, they didn't handle it well, so they supported themselves.
Well, it's about the people. Forget the candidates. I'm talking about the candidates that emerged. But the people will come back to the PDP.
So what is your assessment now? That in addition to this, they will come back to the PDP, which means what? They will give PDP an edge in the governorship elections,
yes.
and PDP will win and APC will
The
not?
PDP should win, based on our projection, with close to 100,000 votes.
But you know that the ruling party, APC, haven't seen where they probably made mistakes. Will also go back home and make, ensure that they cover up their mistakes, atone for their mistakes, and come out stronger.
My brother, time is not on their side. And the wounds inflicted are deep on themselves.
Is time on PDP side?
Yeah. Because we have been there with the people, our people that voted Labour, our people that voted other people, and they are back to us.
But you were there before, and then you lost to the PDP.
Yes, we lost. We lost the APC.
Sorry, you lost to the APC.
Yes, we lost to the APC.
And not even for the first time.
We didn't lose.
For almost like the second administration.
No, let's get it right. They never won the elections. They stole it. I want to tell you this.
Wow.
They stole it because,
well.
hold on. In Karu here, just next door, they cancelled over 100,000 votes for no reason. No reason was given.
It'll be interesting to see how...
And those are our votes. They didn't cancel their votes, they canceled our votes. As usual, why should we manipulate? Why should we do this for power?
It'll be interesting to see how matters eventually pan out, with the governorship elections. But, interestingly, flawed as the elections have been described, as being, and it would seem that largely, if you look at the results that have come out in each state, it has also gone in time out in that state. For instance, took a look at what is happening or happened in your own state, where the Labour Party won. You can easily explain what has happened in your own state that will produce those kinds of results. So going forward, looking at our electoral process, imperfect as it might be, what would you say to the average Nigerian voter who was, deeply disillusioned by how the process...
But the Obedience conducted the election, and they conducted the election to win. They didn't conduct the election to manipulate, okay? Because of the age bracket of those who were officials of INEC, they fell within what propelled the Obedient movement to where it went. So they actually conducted the election, and I praise them for that.
I don't understand. How do you mean? Are you suggesting something untoward?
No, they didn't. I didn't say so. What I am saying is that they brought some sense of responsibility to it because they were dedicated to pursuing the cause in most of the places that I have seen. But there are people who are questioning one or two things. I didn't say that INEC officials at that level, did some untoward things. But I saw them at least conducting and organizing the exercise. It was peaceful and nice, except that, very few incidences of those who are used to thuggery, snatch ballot box or snatch beavers and so on, very few here and there. But those who conducted the exercise were more organized.
Because when you talk about this question of structure, haven't seen the way things turned out and the way Labour Party performed in the country. So is that to say that the notion that they bandied around so much, the question of structure, is dying, if not dead already?
Yes, because people are now looking at the candidates. That's the point I made. If you bring a good candidate, people will cherry pick until the people are not getting involved in the attempt to build our democracy. They are not relying only on the elites who control the levers of power and steal everything to the chagrin of the masses.
I think I have a question for you.
Kimberlin, let me just ask this one thing, Mr. Omeri, perhaps in the same spirit of the question mark where I asked you earlier. Many people are asking the question, what's the difference between the PDP and the APC or any other political party at that? So let me ask you pointedly, what would you say is the ideological difference between the PDP and any other political party in Nigeria?
The coming together of politicians in 1998, 99 was first and foremost to take power from the military. They were all organized, people from various shades of opinion that we knew from our past. The MPN days, the NPP days, and so forth, and so all gravitated to one corner just to get power. As we move, democracy grows, people will now, begin to move to their own places. So you are finding, we found people who called themselves progressives, but they were then, as you know, majority of them were in the conservative bent. The PDP that was supposed to be, driven by the progressives of the 80s, are now beginning to look like the conservatives, but they are not. And that is why we are throwing in new, younger persons into the field. And, let me say that as we evolve, the true ideology of these political parties will come. But as it is now, it's a confusion. Everybody is looking for a table to grab power. That is what I see. You are just looking for a platform to take power. So Nigerians are not... In fact, Nigeria has never had any ideological-driven system or government. We have always been non-aligned, and that has affected our focus, our direction as a government. We are just there, taking from China, America, England, everywhere. So this new movement, new direction, where the citizens, like I said, are beginning to be part of the development of our democratic culture, will lead us to defining our democratic values based on whether they are liberal democracies or social democracy or capitalist democracy and so forth. Although we see a lot of capitalism all over the place where everybody wants to grab everything for himself, and well, that one definitely is not is fraudulently done.
So just as you wind down, do you think the PDP regrets how they conducted themselves for these presidential elections?
Of course, I have my personal opinion to that, which may be different from what the PDP, because I felt that we should have entered that election as a united family, no matter the cost. And we didn't do that. The PDP is still looking at what went wrong. That is actual election day.
People thought it's glaring, because they thought that politicians in PDP who've been there for a long time, haven't been contesting elections for a long time, should have seen these signs coming.
I was discussing with someone yesterday, and I saw things played out. Even some politicians in the PDP felt that the ruling government was not at peace with itself. So they thought they could capitalize on one or two things, but I was a dummy, as what I've seen.
Wow, dummy, you say? Oh dear, I guess. But losing Lagos was not a dummy, was it?
Well, it's part of the story.
Okay, not a dummy.
Maybe we will write a book someday to explain what happened. Because the Lagos thing, if we are to believe that the part of the election was orchestrated, we will explain the loss of Lagos and some other places along that line. Because where PDP or APC is losing to Labour Party, the gap was very small, even where the other party...
Okay, I know we need to go, but do you think politicians will or still underestimate young people in this country?
I don't think so. And I want to encourage... That's why we are supporting David Ombugadu in Nasarawa State. He's younger, he's energetic, he has discharged, something credibly we saw. So let's get our young people out there. Let them do the work.
Okay, so this Saturday, hopefully, they will be out there to follow up whatever they did, wherever they did it in the February elections. Well, thank you for coming on, Mr. Michael Mary, former DG, NOA, and a member of the PDP. We will be back in a moment from Lagos this time. Stay with us.
Thank you again for staying with us. Professor Lai Olorode joins us this morning. He is former National Commissioner with INEC, and he joins us from Osun State, Southwest Nigeria. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof. A good number of issues that have been raised, especially concerning the promises of INEC, are again on the front burner. And there are risks that many people say it could significantly affect the turnout of voters in the next election coming up this Saturday. How significantly would you say that trust has been breached, if it has? And how would you say that INEC has so far addressed it and attempted to instill that confidence back so we can have a much larger turnout on Saturday?
Well, to a great extent, the February 25 elections will go down as one of the best elections in recent times in this country. And I have my reasons for saying this. Number one is that it's about the most competitive election that we've ever had. In 2015, in 2011, Jonathan defeated Buhari by almost 10 million votes. In 2015, Buhari defeated Jonathan by over 2 million plus, almost 3 million or so. In the 2023 February election, 2019 election, the margin of defeat was larger than 2015. In the February 25 election, the margin of defeat between the president-elect APC and PDP was just about 1 point or thereabout. And you can see the spread of votes. In 2019 rather, Buhari had 1/4 of the votes in 27 states of the Federation. Jonathan had about 26. In this election, Labour had at least 1/4 of the votes in about 12 states. Applies to the did in so what I'm saying is not shake at voter education as well to just about 1% compared to 2019 when we had about 2.6 wasted votes. And when you look at the party hegemony, you come to realize that the dominant political parties, because of crisis within those parties, they lost grants to new political parties, particularly NMPP, the New Nigerian Political Party, and also the Labour Party. The Labour Party was a party coming from nowhere, but Peter Obi came out and breathed a lot of life into that political party to the extent that for struggling with the leading political parties. So for me, the party individuals that are believed to be more ethical, they are having a kind of field day in the last election. And what are the ugly and the good side of this election? One is the role of technology. When Buhari won the 2015 election, he, to a very large extent, eulogized the role of technology. When we were using the card reader, compared to the use of beavers, in spite of all the criticism against beavers, it sanitized the electoral process. Voter turnout, actually, we didn't do well in the last election compared to 2015 and 2019, where it was about 40 something.
My sincere apologies for butting in. If you can hear me, Prof. If you can hear me, Prof, my apologies. The stats of this election will definitely still come out and will be very functional for us in future elections. But I'm just wondering how you think these issues that you have raised address the challenge of likely voter apathy and increased likely voter apathy on Saturday, given what many consider a disappointment, even though you say it's one of the best elections so far.
Yeah, usually the presidential election tended to draw more voters out than any other election. But I think we're not going to have governorship election in about 6 states or thereabout. I will believe that looking, every political party wants to see what it can gain and would therefore should be able to mobilize voters strongly more than they were able to do in the presidential election. I'm sure Labour Party want to enhance it, we want to consolidate on its gains. The same thing, APC want to have a better outing because it suffered tremendously because Labour never allowed in places, in states where Labour was very strong.
Prof, the challenge here is concerning the technology that INEC deployed. Beavers, yes, it performed, but when it comes to getting the election results to the IRF portal, that is one thing that many people think, unless someone has to, convince them otherwise, that INEC dropped the ball. How do we ensure that that does not affect turnout on this Saturday? And what's the assurance we have that this time around, the IRF portal will perform as much and as optimally as expected?
I think with the concession that INEC was able to obtain from the court, that is having enough time to go and reconfigure the beavers. I would want to believe strongly that INEC cannot hide under any guise, under any excuse that it hadn't got enough time to reconfigure the beavers. And I think looking at some of the technological failure that it had on February 15, INEC had had several meetings, and I'm sure it should be able to give us a better outing with regards to the role of technology in this election. I believe strongly there's no other way to go in this country because INEC had no control over the ad hoc staff. It had no control over wayward politicians who want to subvert the process at all costs. I think it goes beyond INEC. INEC need partnership of the politics and of the security. Cannot be the fault of causing skirmishes in the field. We all have to agree that we want good elections. INEC alone cannot deliver good elections to this country.
Yeah, Prof, it's interesting that you say that INEC had no control over the presiding officers, and you say specifically that it had no control over wayward staff. Speaking of which, do you suspect, which is the commentary that we're hearing, particularly from the concerned political parties and other Nigerians, do you suspect that something untoward may have happened in between the time when the presiding officers, were transferring the election results and the time that the election results were actually transmitted to the IRF portal? And does this cast a shadow of doubt on the election results that were transmitted, that were delayed before they were transmitted to the portal?
No, what I suspected is this, and I've commented this on several platforms. INEC had promised more than what it can deliver. And it's too late in the day for it to moderate how it had stirred people's expectations. I don't see any reason why INEC should be in a hurry. It had introduced technology in all fronts, at the back end, at the front end. We don't even have that base, that infrastructural base to be able to do that. You and I know I've been trying to put on my video today to have this discussion. I've been on it since yesterday, but here we are. It failed us, and I had to go on audio. So there's no need. INEC seems to be too much in a hurry to deliver credible elections. We should go step by step. Even in Europe, in countries where they control technology, they are skeptical about a wholesale introduction of technology into the electoral process. Because once it fails, you fail the entire country. It should have been piecemeal. Look, INEC should have told the country we can do so on a zonal basis. Okay. Pick a state in each of the zones and see how it goes on an experimental basis. But to do wholesale deployment of technology, I think INEC, that's a tall dream, which is not.
Well, Prof, as you know, we are already there, and once we get into a space of technology, we haven't really gone back, and I don't see that happening right now. Unfortunately, we have to close at this time and hope that one of these days we'll be able to bring you back and have a more elaborate conversation with the technology, very friendly, with us. Professor Lai Oloride is a former national commissioner with INEC, and he joined us from Osun State, southwest Nigeria. Well, we have a number of messages from you as we close this morning. Pastor Law Alpha Cross says, it is relieving to note that CBN has interpreted the body language of the presidency and has directed banks along that line. But the problem is that these no's can't be accessed by Nigerians, and the quagmire is subsisting.
Well, Festus Akinboyewa chooses to talk about Saturday's elections, and he says, INEC must give us an improved governorship election than the presidential election. We want to see improvement in the use of BVAS, logistics, timely delivery of election materials, early start of voting, transparent collation of results, and a big no to violence. Sounds like Uhuru, if you ask me.
Well, Henry Okeke says, he's talking about, this is an email actually from Henry Okeke about the 2023 polls and youth education. He says, there is a significant amount of involvement of the people in the electoral process. The democratic progress must be preserved, protected, and cherished.
And I say an amen to that, if it is a prayer or a wish.
Okay,
well,
there you go.
Indeed. Thank you so much for watching this beautiful Tuesday morning. Thank you for letting us be in a part of your day. Do let us know how it eventually goes for you. If you're able to access some Naira notes, are there few queues where you are, or have they disappeared? At what price are you buying fuel? We'll be very interested to hear some of this information from you. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Yes, indeed. We do thank you, and keep your comments coming through. Always a pleasure to get across to you via your comments. I'm Chamberlain, so have a good day.
Speaking of what we want you to let us know, it'll be interesting to know if at the markets, the traders have begun accepting the old Naira notes. Let us know. Thank you for sharing your morning with us. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
I'm going to repeat the same thing. Be safe out there. God bless you and have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.